The lighthouse stood alone on the northern cliffs, a dark sentinel carved from stone and sea wind. Waves battered the rocks below with an endless, sleepless rhythm. The path to the lantern room wound through black grass and shattered gull nests, a ribbon of gravel lost beneath the creeping fog. Most travellers turned back before the final bend, but not Jonas. He hadn't come to the coast seeking answers. He came to forget. 3 days earlier, he'd packed a single bag. No phone, no watch, no plan, and boarded the midnight train heading north. He didn't tell anyone. There was no one left to tell. The silence in his life had grown too loud in the city. He needed the quiet. The village he stepped off into was barely a cluster of homes. He passed them without speaking. A gas station, an old man sitting outside with a mug of something steaming. He nodded. The man did not nod back. He followed the road until it stopped being a road. At the edge of a weather-beaten path, just before the trail dipped down into the fog, he saw the rock. It jutted out like a crooked tooth, surrounded by wild grass and bleached shells. The key was beneath it. Jonas didn't know why he stopped, didn't know why his hand went to that stone in particular, or why he knelt and turned it over. But there it was, rusted, heavy, shaped like an anchor. The kind of key you dream about finding, but never expect to exist in waking life. It felt warm. He held it a long time, breathing in the scent of salt and rot, the sea breeze curling around him like a whisper too close to the ear. The cliffs creaked. Somewhere below, waves broke with a roar. He pocketed the key and walked on. It was nearly dusk by the time he reached the tower. The lighthouse was taller than it should have been, as though it grew as he approached. Stones blackened by time, windows long boarded shut. But the top, the lantern room, was strangely intact, its glass windows glinting like teeth in the dying light. The door was crooked on its hinges, painted red once, now stripped to splinters. Jonas pushed it open, the sound deep and dragging, like something reluctant to wake. Inside, the air changed. No longer cold, just still. The spiral staircase wound upward, swallowed in shadow. The stone beneath his feet was damp. Moss clung to the walls. The scent of brine and iron filled his nose. Then he heard it, soft. Faint, like someone humming a lullaby just out of reach. It wasn't coming from above. It was coming from the walls. He stood frozen, the darkness pressing close. Then the flame flickered. He didn't know where it came from at first, only that a faint blue glow was pulsing through the cracks ahead. He climbed. Each step seemed to echo too far. His footfalls stretched down into the dark like drops in a bottomless well. The humming grew louder, not tuneless, just unfamiliar, like a language sung instead of spoken. At the top, the stairs opened into the lantern room. Glass wrapped the chamber in a panoramic circle, though outside the fog was too thick to see. A massive lens, unmoving, sat in the center, silent, still, dusty. And beside it, on a rusted iron table, sat the lantern. It was ancient, oil-blackened, flame dancing behind smoky glass. The light was blue. It cast no shadow. Jonas stepped forward, his boots echoing sharply on the stone floor. The humming stopped. He reached out. His hand hovered above the lantern's curved handle. "Careful," came a voice behind him. Jonas turned too quickly. There was no one, just a cold draft from a cracked pane. He stared a long moment into the fog, then turned back to the lantern. His fingers touched it. The flame flared, white, then silver, then still. The entire room changed. Every pane of glass became a mirror. Every reflection showed Jonas, but not quite him. One smiled gently, like an old friend. One wept silently, hands pressed to the glass. One stood perfectly still, but the eyes were wrong, black and bottomless. One wore different clothes, a version of himself he'd never seen before. He stumbled back. The reflections did not move with him. They stayed where they were. Then, footsteps on the stairs, slow, wet. He turned toward the spiral, but no one appeared. The lantern flared again. The mirrors rippled like water. One reflection stepped forward and whispered, "You lit it. That means you stay." Jonas ran. The stairs seemed longer than before. The door below was gone, or never there. The lighthouse twisted. The walls breathed. The humming returned, louder, joined by voices now, not words, just syllables drawn out in long, sibilant tones. He pressed himself against the cold stone. Something passed by him in the fog. A shape, human in outline, too tall, too thin. Its head tilted. The voice came again, directly in his ear. "Keeper." He spun. Nothing. Just the light above, flashing now, a beacon with no rhythm, pulsing in silence. Jonas backed toward the wall. His hand touched something smooth, a plaque. He turned, words carved in stone. All those who light the lantern remain. All those who remain become its voice. Keep it will be forgotten. The blue glow filled the tower. The humming rose. And then, silence. Outside, the villagers looked up. The lighthouse burned. A soft, steady light in the mist. Just as it had for years. No one asked who kept it anymore. Only that it always glowed. And if you walk the cliffs alone, and the fog grows thick, and you hear humming that doesn't stop when you do, don't look up at the light. It's looking back. Fog had claimed the cliffs entirely. The lantern burned steady now, a cold bluish-white flame turning slowly behind the great Fresnel lens at the top of the tower. To ships at sea, it was a beacon. To those in the village, it was a reminder. And to Jonas, it was breath. He did not remember the moment he stopped being a man. Only that, one day, he no longer needed to eat or sleep or even blink. Time softened around him. Minutes became hours, or perhaps the other way around. The walls of the lighthouse pulsed gently, like the inside of a great stone lung. His thoughts were not thoughts exactly, more like murmurs through fog, emotion carried on wind, memory stitched into light. He wandered the tower barefoot now. His boots had vanished long ago. He did not miss them. When he touched the walls, they responded, humming low like a tuning fork deep in the bones. The lantern, when it flared, sent visions across the mirrors. Visitors from other times. Reflections that did not belong to this world. Sometimes he spoke aloud, though he wasn't sure why. The tower heard him. That was enough. But then, one evening, the lantern dimmed. It had never done that before. He climbed to the top, passing through the mist-filled spiral that now shifted subtly with every turn, like the tower leaned into his steps. The flame was pale now, weak. He reached out, his fingertips brushing the edge of the lens. The glass rippled, and in it, he saw something he hadn't seen in a very long time. A boat. Not a ship, a small wooden fishing boat, bobbing in the waves just off the northern coast. A lantern hung from its bow. The man inside rowed slowly, wrapped in a dark coat, his eyes scanning the water. The tower pulsed. Jonas understood. Someone was coming. The fog grew thicker than he had ever seen it, pressing against the lighthouse glass like sea foam made of breath. Far below, the ocean churned without sound. And then, footsteps on the shore. He descended. The door at the base of the tower creaked open. A figure stepped in. A girl, maybe 20, maybe less. Her coat was too thin for the cold, and her eyes darted to every shadow. Jonas watched from behind the stairwell, unseen. She held something in her hand. A key. She looked up the spiral. "Hello," was her voice thin. "Is anyone here?" Jonas didn't answer, but the tower did. The flame in the lantern flared to life, casting blue light down through the stairwell, wrapping her in its glow. Her breath caught in her throat. She took a step forward, then another. The door closed behind her without a sound. Jonas moved without thinking. Not down, up. Back to the lantern room. The flame was brighter now, urgent, pulsing. Reflections began appearing again, not just his, hers. One showed her laughing with a man by a campfire. One showed her crying in the rain. One showed her standing over a grave. He turned away. The girl had reached the mid-level. Her hand traced the rail. The metal sang beneath her touch. She felt it too. "Hello?" she called again. "I found the key. I didn't know where else to go." Jonas whispered, not with breath, with the walls. "Why are you here?" She froze. Looked around. "I don't know." "Yes, you do." She placed her palm flat on the stairwell. "My father used to talk about this place. He said the light only came on when someone was lost." The flame surged. Jonas saw it now, the boat, the man inside. The resemblance was unmistakable, her father. Gone. Years ago, she had come to find him. The tower groaned. The reflections multiplied. One showed the man, soaked, desperate, rowing towards shore, lost in a storm of grey nothing. The flame had been lit, the light had called to him, and he had entered, just as she had. Jonas turned to the lens and saw the final image, the man kneeling in the lantern room, holding the same key she now carried. It was his voice she had heard on the wind. He had become the keeper, until now. The tower chose. Jonas stepped away from the flame. "Take the light," he whispered. The girl climbed the final step. She saw him. Not as a ghost, not as a man, as something in between, wrapped in shadow and silver, eyes reflecting the lantern's pulse. She didn't scream. "Are you the keeper?" He nodded. "Can I see him?" she asked. Jonas lifted a hand and touched the glass. It shimmered. The room filled with the sound of waves, and the lens showed her father, standing behind the lens, eyes soft, smiling. She reached out. The glass met her fingers with warmth. He said nothing. He didn't need to. Then the image faded. The girl turned to Jonas. What now? He stepped back. The lantern flared, and she understood. Jonas bowed his head. The walls opened. He walked into them. The mirrors swallowed his image. The tower exhaled, and the flames steadied. She sat beside the lantern. Outside, the wind changed direction. A new keeper had come, and the lantern room burned on.